Welcome to the Vantage HR Influencers Podcast. This podcast is sponsored by Vantage Circle, the simple and AI-powered rewards and recognition platform for employee engagement.
Hey everyone. I've been extensively thinking about total rewards lately, and I've come to a realization that it's not just another HR strategy. And it's definitely not some one-size-fits-all playbook. What I have observed is that total rewards are a real game changer for driving motivation and performance. In fact, total rewards has the power to go beyond paychecks and benefits. It can redefine how organizations connect with their people and create more meaningful, holistic experiences that truly engage employees. But again, are we really sure we know how a holistic, impactful total rewards look like? And how good are we at designing systems that resonate with employees while also aligning with business goals? Few very crucial questions, and we seek the answers. That's why we are going to explore these questions today. And to help us with that, I'm excited to welcome Priyambi Chordia Malvai, an expert in total rewards and HR leadership. She is currently heading Total Rewards, Organization Effectiveness, and HRBP for emerging businesses at Times Internet. I'm your host, Sanjeevani Saikia, and in today's episode, we'll discuss how total rewards can fuel motivated and high-performing workforce. So, let's get started. Hi, Priyambi. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
Hey, Sanjeevani. Thank you for having me here. Great opportunity. I'm doing great, save for for Delhi's pollution. But thankfully, I'm working from home today. So doing well. Thanks.
It's such a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for joining in. After our brief chat before this podcast, two things stood out to me. First, your incredible passion for fostering a people-first culture, and second, your deep expertise in total rewards. That's why I'm especially excited to discuss total rewards with you today, and I'm sure both I and our listeners will gain so much from your insights. So, without further ado, I think we can start today's conversation.
Sure, absolutely.
When we think about total rewards, it's not just the individual pieces like salary or perks that matter. I believe it's how all these elements come together to create something more meaningful for employees. But I was wondering what truly defines an effective total rewards program according to you. Is it the design, the delivery, or something else entirely that I may not know? So could you kindly break down what makes a total reward program effective in the very first place?
Sure, Sanjeevani. I think you did bring in a few elements there. I'm glad you did. But as you rightly mentioned, for any total rewards program to be effective, the first thing to understand is we're talking about total rewards.
Yes.
And we're talking about rewards, by the way. So the more important thing, like when you're designing anything and when you're implementing anything, what's key is to understand who you're designing for. Okay. What is it that you're designing? Why is it that you're designing that? And then how is it getting implemented? That's a framework I work. But having said that, if I were to break this down for today's workforce, because that's the question. Now let's look at what is today's workforce, right? So today's workforce is far more informed. It is globally connected. It's very aspirational, right? As compared to earlier generations, or for that matter, even my generation.
Yes.
The other thing that characterizes this generation is that they look for instant and quick gratification as well.
True.
Okay. But along with this, interestingly, they have extreme clarity of what they want out of life today. And so you'll see that dinks and sinks, which I call double income, no kids, or single income, no kids. And sometimes it's actually DINPs also, which is no kids and with pets. Okay. They're becoming way more common today.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's crazy how accelerated the change in the landscape of this workforce is today. Okay, so the effective program, any effective total rewards program actually should be agile and should be able to cater to these changes very, very quickly.
Correct.
For myself, as a guiding principle, and this is what I use and I'm sharing it here, I've created a 9-letter acronym, okay, that helps keep me on a path of ensuring that anything that we design or roll out from a total rewards program is impactful. And that is exactly the acronym I use, impactful. That's a 9-letter word. Each letter actually is representing the core component of things that I want to focus on when I'm designing a strategy or implementing a particular design program. Let me quickly talk about these 9 letters. And believe me, I think anything kind of gets covered here. Please help me in case I miss out on anything, Sanjeevani, because I always do like to take inputs from everyone in case something is missing, and then I can add to this, maybe make it a 10-letter acronym.
Yeah. Sure.
But to start off, out of the impactful for me is inclusivity. Okay.
Yes.
So when I say inclusivity, we are basically now talking about including and tailoring rewards for the diverse workforce that is there today. So we must look at making them cohort based. We should provide a flexibility, a personalization of sort, so that employees have the ability to choose what really matters to them most. Now, it's easy to say, let's make it very, very flexible, but obviously you make it flexible to the extent that the organization can administer and manage that flexibility. But just being aware that making things customizable can help in inclusion is important, in my view. For example, you can have customized learning paths, or you have flexi benefits, the customized benefits that we work with, or work arrangements that are there, right? That allow individuals to align rewards with their personal goals. So that's about inclusion. And next part is M, which is out of impactful, which is market. So call it market awareness, market relevance, whatever it is. But I think this is really, really key. Why I'm saying that is because, see, there's an internal landscape and there's an external landscape. Now, staying informed about the external landscape, what the industry trends are, what is the external talent landscape, what are the various innovative programs that are available in the market, okay? Whether we're talking about gamification or flexi comp or benefit structures that we have, or any new services that have been rolled out in the market, which organizations today may think, hey, I don't think we need it, or hey, by the way, we never thought about it. I think one of the things that I did speak to you about just before we connected, right?
Yes.
Before the podcast, while it was in another context, I do believe that it makes sense to bring it up here, an example of estate management services.
Correct.
So while this has been there in the retail market, I think it's very recent that estate management services and companies have started approaching organizations for providing these kind of services to their employees. I think it's become extremely critical for employees to be educated about what happens after their death, not just about insurance, but who manages their assets. Have they made a will? Have the parents made a will? Because after COVID, it's been very we've seen that the demise has been very sudden for many people, and families are left to fend for themselves. They have no idea what's happening. Now, one of the things that organizations can actually do is provide such a service to them or educate them. Just education. One doesn't need to invest money in them. But even if we were to educate and sort of take help from the services that are available in the market, it's great. We think ahead of the curve if we have market awareness. Another very, very important part is partnership, which is what P is all about.
Yes.
As total rewards, we talk about total rewards. It isn't just compensation and benefits. It is about many things that form a rewarding work experience for an employee. So compensation for sure, benefits, we talk about career development, we talk about learning and growth. There is also an element of pride for the company that I work in, so the branding of the company. There's element of the kind of people I work with, the manager that I have, the services that I get at an organization. So all of this form part of a rewarding work experience. By the way, even the job challenge in a job it forms part of the exciting rewards I get out of working somewhere. It's not just compensation. So when we think about this, it's easy to design a program, okay? But for it to be really effective and implemented well, I believe collaboration between the various centers of excellence and HR business partners, as well as business leaders and managers, it's very important. So it's very important to ensure smooth handoffs and alignment between all these various cogs in the wheel. So I believe that this collaboration transforms anything which is fragmented, all the fragmented efforts that may be there, into one cohesive strategy, which is beautifully implemented. So P for me is a key part. A is alignment, which is aligning rewards with employee preferences and organizational goals. I'm not going to talk too much about it, frankly, because I think this is something that that every organization surely looks for. The moment you are aligning these rewards, you actually, in fact, actually, can I just quote something here?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So, all right. So, if you look at leading firms, consulting firms, HR consulting firms, they have done studies. They consistently reveal a gap between what employees are actually valuing and what organizations are focusing their efforts on.
Correct.
So, over many years, year on year, organizations may be focusing their efforts on compensation. Okay. But employees today are coming back with growth.
True.
As their top most, need, let me say, which is going unfulfilled, or what they really prefer to be taken care of on. So imagine if we were to listen better and align that, because the growth of an employee means growth of an organization as well, right?
Yes.
Whereas compensation necessarily may not lead to growth of the organization, and hence alignment becomes very, very important. C, which is communication, that's the fifth step. And ensuring clarity and transparency of whatever we are designing, the full value of total rewards, I think is important. Employees must understand the full scope of their rewards, and the responsibility actually lies on the total reward professionals. Again, I'm saying total reward professionals. If everybody understands that total reward professionals are not just C&B folks, but actually L&D, talent management, even the HR operations, which is employee experience, creating employee experience, great employee experience, all of them form part of this whole gamut. Everybody, if you all understand this and communicate it well to employees, I think the effectiveness of the total rewards program is far more.
Yes.
So coming to the sixth step, which is T, technology. I think this is the new addition in the last 8 years or 10 years. And very recently, again, an accelerated focus on technology, using advanced tools, data analysis, AI, and feedback mechanisms, so that we can adapt programs in real time. I think that helps us optimize resource allocation as well for ourselves. Great analytics and tools are there. Also, it helps us in administering some of these programs. For example, flexi pay or flexi benefits, flex benefits, or flexible work arrangements. I mean, today you and I are connecting through Zoom.
Yes.
Right? We've seen the shift after COVID, especially on how work arrangements have really taken a different path. So technology has made all of this possible. Next, we come to F, which is financial optimization. I don't think total rewards professionals can ever take their eyes away from how financial budgets can be optimized for maximum bang for the buck. Right. So, yeah, we need to be clear what are substantive programs, what are candy floss initiatives that may be flashy but may have less impact. Sometimes you need these flashy programs as well, let me tell you. But we should be clear how we are optimizing the budgets that we have. Again, technology or feedback loops and data analytics really helps in that. Last two, which is U and L.
Yes.
So unified scope, I believe, is important. We touched upon it in terms of partnership, but I bring this up again because unified scope is again making sure. I mean, we need to understand its total rewards. So it should necessarily, in my view, encompass learning programs, career growth, engagement, employer branding, job challenge. I mean, great job opportunities, you name it. Anything can be part of a rewarding work experience. But we need to again marry this with cohorts. So all of this is actually pretty interlinked there. The last one is long-term vision, wherein we say that let's aim for aspirational goals while we are delivering measurable results in the present. So this is what we're talking about. Now, a lot of it may seem like gyan, okay? But as I said, this for me is a framework. And each of these aspects helps me keep always question, am I being true to the long-term vision? Am I being true to financial optimization? To what extent am I being true? Okay, if I cannot, let's say for lack of budget, if I cannot do technological advancements, at least I know I tried in the space of technology to make it effective. I know what's working and why it did not work if something didn't. So this framework really helps me, Sanjeev.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
So, in the very beginning of the conversation, you've mentioned a little about the kind of workforce that is currently working. You have given me this framework, which I believe is amazing, impactful. There are 9 elements to it. So, does this framework change a bit? Is there any tweak necessary if I just simply talk about Gen Z, like Gen Z entering the workforce? And is there any change that is visible in the framework with day incoming?
Actually, Sanjeevani, the beauty of this framework, I believe, is actually there's no change required. In fact, I think for example, we're talking about Gen Z, okay? If you look at the first letter, which is inclusivity,
Yes.
the first thing that it talks about is cohort-based flexibility.
And it is important, I believe.
It's important. So the moment I'm focusing on, hey, by the way, and let me just use this framework, right? So one is inclusivity. Second, if I were to just pick up, say technology, although I'm saying technology, I encompass technology and data and feedback loops, etc., etc. All the advanced tools that I would use in technology to take feedback and do data analytics. So if I were to marry these two, what does my data say? What percentage of my population is really Gen Z? Market may be having. So, for example, um, I wouldn't name the organization. One of the organizations that I worked for earlier. If I were to look at the industry, it's a very traditional industry. But if I were to look at the average age of people in that particular company, even though it was part of this industry, right? It was barely 35. And so this was a manufacturing projects organization. And having an average age of 35, 36 was for me a new thing. I couldn't have, when I stepped into that organization, I didn't realize that I thought I would have to do some really traditional things out there. But when I looked at the age group out there, while they weren't Gen Z at that time, but it was a different age group.
Yes.
Right. So I had to tailor my programs according to them after doing that data analysis and looking at what is the cohort that I would like to focus X particular part of the program, and then what should I be focusing for Y cohort. So the same thing can apply for Gen Z as well. But if you were to say, what is it that I can do differently for Gen Z? I think this is a question which has been really harped upon by many, many, many professionals. There are 2, 3 things that stand out for me.
Yes. I think the very first framework, the very first element that you've added in the framework, inclusivity, is an absolute win. Because, recently I just went through a report. I think it was from Forbes. And it stated that the 2 things that Gen Z highly values, one is inclusivity in the workplace, and second, how sustainable is the workplace? I mean, how sustainable are they working towards? I mean, are they promoting?
Right. The sustainability aspect that Yeah, whether we are adding to the climate change woes, I spoke about pollution right in the beginning,
Yes.
or are we doing something to give back to the society? Absolutely. Look at this, do you think we could have thought about these things in the earlier generation? We used to, but it was more a mandate. It
Yes.
was more like, X percentage of my profits for a profitable organization need to be part of a CS program like that, right? So uh, it's a CSR program was just a mandate.
Yeah.
It
They need to be
wasn't
the core
really
value.
something driven by people.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. But today, many young organizations and especially Gen Z, whether or not the organization is doing something, if you were to ask them, I guarantee, like I myself know of many of the younger lot
Mm.
who in their personal time do things to give back to the society. And imagine if you were to tap into that aspiration and tie up the CSR program to that aspiration rather than making it, just a full check in the box exercise because, hey, some percentage of my profits need to be going to for a CSR activity.
Mm.
So imagine if that tie up happens. Beautiful. I think that's a great point you've raised, Sanjeev.
Thank you.
Indeed.
Yeah. Now, moving on, I guess lately you've observed companies coming up with, trends like remote work, wellness initiatives, and flexible benefits. I think it's
Mhm.
widespread, it's evident, we've observed it, and they're catching up and encouraging it sincerely. That's one other very important point, which I believe is great.
Mhm.
In this regard, I
Mhm.
want to know your opinion. First of all, have you observed this trend? And how has your experience been? Also, I'd like to know your perspective on how companies can adapt to these rapid changes, according to you.
No, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely, Sanjeevni. That is true. However, let me tackle the question you have raised. Okay.
Yes.
I have, and you may not, I might surprise you with my response.
Okay.
But here's what I feel with respect to the recent surge in virtual working, flexible work arrangements, work from home,
Hmm.
hybrid versus remote versus in office, for example, right?
Yeah.
That's that's the point that you initially raised, and we'll get on to financial uh,
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
versus
Maybe that is the next question, most likely. Yes.
yeah. That's what you just mentioned just before this. But after COVID, during COVID rather, after the first 3 or 4 months of shock, when at least the digital businesses started to kind of get back into action, and then everybody else followed suit. Uh, Normalization happened with all of these tools coming up, us becoming much more used to saying, oh, by the way, instead of stopping work, let's do this work. We can do work across geographies, across houses,
Hmm.
without being in office together,
Yes.
uh, across time zones. And we broke, as a human race, we adapted very, very quickly. Having said that, Sanjeevni, I think 2 years down the line, or 2.5 or 3 years down the line, actual normalization happened just now in the last 1.5 years. We thought that it became normal. It was normal for us to work virtually. Absolutely, it was normal for us to work with those kind of work arrangements during COVID or around that time, because that was the only way to work. And we said, oh, by the way, it's possible. But last 1.5 years, I think our normal has shifted again. Instead of saying virtual only or hybrid to be the foremost thing, I think we've settled with what you mentioned just a little while earlier, which is flexi work timings or work arrangements, for example, which meant that organizations started feeling the need of getting people back to office. And that's a reality. We felt the need as well in our organization. I know of many professionals, many businesses, and many business leaders facing a challenge getting people back, and for a good reason, right? Uh, our organization, the one that I'm currently with, we are an emergency services organization. It's a news media organization. So we had to be on all the time. There was no change for us because we were a part of us was emergency. And imagine there was another part which had all the work from home uh, and virtual and all of that kind of work arrangement was available to them. But when we've actually relooked at the normal. We've realized that being 100% virtual, just absolutely looking only at employee preferences, uh, swung the balance too much on one side. And this is where balance between what the employees prefer, what is the requirement from an external force perspective, for example, COVID was an external force, versus what the organization requires. We need to optimize in all of this, use all of this optimally, and make sure that there's a balance. And that's what we have seen. Increasingly, it was perforce. We went into that mode, but we learned a lot of things. And now, thankfully, the normal is by using some of those skills of, for example, Zoom meetings. I'm just saying, okay, or being comfortable having. I have one business which is nearly 90% virtual. I would say 100% virtual, working very well. Okay, and then there's another business that is 100% in office kind of thing. So I think it has allowed us to have a here also cohort based flexibility. That's what I would say. This is where we are moving towards. I don't think fully virtual or fully flex for employees will work, or fully flex for organizations. It has to be a balance, Sanjeev.
Yeah. So in that case, are you saying that you kind of prefer more hybrid? Is that what I can derive?
No, I wouldn't say I prefer anything. What my answer is very simple, and this is coming out of practical experience. It depends upon the business that you're running.
Yes.
And the requirements of the business. You need to be very clear. If a business needs to, as I said, essential services need to be on ground. Okay. Yes. What has happened is everyone has become way more sensitive. They understand. They're more empathetic towards requirements of people. That, I believe, has been a shift in leaders. And till date, leaders are trying to find a balance between how do I balance this need? I'm just giving an example of this, this piece that everybody needs to be in office for a particular business. I'm just saying, okay? Yeah. So even today, leaders, I'm sure it is a tussle for them that, hey, I know that this person requires some flexibility there. And then you've got to say that the organization requires you to be 100% here, for example. I'm just giving, yeah. And so there's always a tussle. At least the leaders started thinking about it, that, people may require flexibility. Yeah. And then they start to restructure a little bit of work around it so that work doesn't hamper and employees' requirement doesn't hamper. So there's a balance that everybody's trying to strike. And that balance is expected from both sides, from employees who need to understand organizational, commitments, and organizations who you need to understand that employees are bringing their whole self to work. It is not just the professional that's coming to you. It is a whole self now that is coming to you. So you need to treat them as whole selves.
Yes.
That's what the balance needs to be.
So Priyambi, right now you have just mentioned about relational rewards and transactional rewards. I think our listeners would be very interested to know about this concept in depth. So for them, could you kindly elaborate on that?
Yeah, sure. I think when we disconnected, he was just chatting up on what I really think of, relationships. You see, employee and organization. We are in a relationship. And by the way, organization is nothing but a set of employees, right? Some leaders, some, of course, it's a financial institution. When I say financial, there is a for-profit, etc. All of that kind of thing is there. But at the end of the day, the essence is there are people working with people in an organization. And hence, the concepts of relationship doesn't go anywhere. If we have to look at rewards as an overall concept, then we need to understand that there will always be something called a transactional relationship, and there will always be something which is relational relationship. So what is a transactional relationship? I get into an organization, I sign a contract. That contract says this is your scope of work, this is what your duty is, your role is, and by the way, you will be paid so much against it. So it's like, I'll give you work, you give me money. It's a pure transaction, right? But we aren't robots, as I told you. We're not robots. We are people at the end of the day. And hence, while I need to baseline my reward program with finances and financial rewards. That baseline needs to be there. It's hygiene. But what really, where the real magic happens, as I said, is not in the chase the paycheck mentality. Okay. Because people can switch roles for incremental salary increases very quickly. But
True.
they'll not feel truly connected to the organization. When I say truly connected to the organization, it's truly connected to the purpose of the organization, the leaders, the people around, and the work that they do. That is possible if we delve into the relational rewards or the what we say non-monetary incentives. And as I said, this is where real magic happens. Why? Because this is where employees will feel valued. This is where they will feel recognized. This is where they will feel that, they're part of something bigger. There's a sense of purpose, as I shared with you.
Not just a cog in the machine, but,
Yes, not just a cog bang on. So not just a cog in the machine, but I have opportunities to grow. So opportunities for learning and growth, recognition, meaningful work. Whatever is my intrinsic motivator, for example, whatever drives me beyond just that paycheck. That is what is relational rewards. Okay, and which is why we need to move on. It's been deliberated enough, actually, which is aiming to move on from being comp and ben professionals to total reward professionals, which is where, again, I go back to impactful. Please, let's not work in silos. Let's each of us look at, when I say each of us, I mean to say each of the centers of excellence that are designing programs in various spheres of rewards. Please consider it adds to the reward of the person who is engaged in your organization. Be it, what is my career ladder going to be here, to what will be, as I said, the pride in the brand that I'm working for. So imagine even my marketing team becomes part of my total rewards program. I mean, it's taking it too far, but if we really work towards something which is working here, a rewarding experience for my employee. In other words, again, the typical term that we have, employee value proposition. Wo kya hai? What is it? Yeah, so that's the difference between transactional versus relational rewards. And any day I would bank on relational rewards for stickiness, retention of the employee. No doubt about it. But it doesn't mean that you can ignore financial rewards. That is hygiene. That's the baseline. You need to Maslow's theory again, Sanjeevani. Yeah,
true.
Of course, you need to find the right mix. I mean, as an example, a new graduate will necessarily, most likely, prioritize salary and career development. Similarly, to put it into practice, a mid-career professional will value flexible work arrangements. Maybe they are married, maybe they have kids, maybe they have aging parents to look after. They will also value leadership development, because that's a mid-career thing. That's my next goal. Similarly, an employee nearing retirement, they will appreciate retirement benefits. Today, by the way, I mean, earlier our thinking was they are the ones who will appreciate wellness benefits and financial planning tools. But to be honest, now, even mid-career professionals and even new graduates, not new graduates, but early in their career folks are appreciating wellness benefits and financial planning tools. They're very much more savvy, Sanjeevani, today. Yeah.
Correct.
I think 4 years back, the event that happened across the world changed a lot of us, is how I will put it. But anyways, yeah.
Yeah, I believe the same. Again, interesting take and incredible. Now, moving on, Priyambi, how important do you think it is for companies to clearly communicate their total rewards? And with communication, I'm not simply saying that employees must know that a total rewards plan exists in the organizations. They just know through a bulletin post or something that, we have a recognition or rewards program. So just utilize it. But I'm talking about the best ways for them to truly utilize and appreciate the value of total rewards as a whole. How do we really communicate that?
Interesting. So lovely, Sanjeevani, because uh, C from impactful. The C there is for communication, one of the most critical aspects, which I feel many of us fail. Interestingly, in our organization, communication is a COE by itself within the HR function. And I'm so happy when I came into this organization, I was delighted when I saw that communication is actually that I keep telling my colleague that, hey, you have one of the most important jobs in this entire organization. So anyways, coming back to what you just spoke about, you see, in essence, communication is not a one way discourse. Then it's a discourse. Like when we are talking about, okay, here's what I've designed through newsletters. Of course, that's all of that is required. It's important. I'm not dispensing the need for it. Absolutely needed. You have town halls, road shows, quarterlies that come out, newsletters, various ways, right? You have activations that you do with partners. All of this is one-way communication. It is important. But the real, again, the real value can be derived from your program if it is a two-way communication. So feedback loops are so important. And then implementing what has come through feedback. What if you cannot implement, then you communicate that, hey, we couldn't do this because of XYZ. And just when the employee feels heard, it is, they're logical beings. They will understand if something is not implemented. Okay. But it is about them feeling heard. That I believe is very, very, very important as an element to communication. So the best way to make sure employees understand their value is to know whether they are getting it also or not. Is it worth it or not? Not one-way communication, but really to know whether it is worth it or not for them. And that's the two-way feedback loop that I was talking about. If we have that and we action it, or if we can't action it, we communicate, employees will feel valued and they will understand why you're doing what you're doing in the Total Rewards program.
Yeah. Spot on. Agree. Absolutely. The one thing I believe that keeps all the HRs up at night is retaining their top talents. I'm sure that is one of the things that HR spends a lot of time working on, be it strategies to retain talent, or just designing or implementing programs. But here I would be interested to know how Total Rewards strategy is being used in this regard. And how do you see Total Rewards impacting employee retention, and particularly employee retention again, especially when it comes to holding on to top talent in such a competitive landscape?
I think you're so right. This is something that we are mired with day in, day out. Retaining our top talent. This is the talent that is very much valued, not just inside the organization, but always chased after by external forces. So they may be at risk all the time, and the impact of losing them is much higher than any other professional within your organization. And we've realized that, and this is data by backed analysis that I'm talking about. We've realized that internally as well, the amount of rewards and even if I were to put a monetary value to those rewards, is far more if we try to retain them versus if we were to proactively ring fence them. Okay, so proactive ring fencing may actually will lead to people feeling more valued, and they will do with lower money also, I'm saying. Okay, but the moment it is about somebody having put in their papers, and if it is your top talent, which is always at risk, then retaining them at that point in time is always going to be way more expensive. You will still do it if it is a very particular employee, top talent or leadership positions or whatever, right? But so it is a big challenge, and hence the biggest thing around the Total Reward strategy is to first make sure that you have identified your top talent and critical talent. Who is critical to you? Which role is critical to you? Which talent is and who is manning that particular critical role? I mean, which person is manning that critical role for you? Once you've identified these two things, then you can get into saying, what do I do to proactively retain? So, one of the things that we use and I've designed, again, it's every rewards professional will think and probably somewhere or the other design along these lines. So nothing new, but still, I think a framework always helps. So the framework that I go by and have designed relates to two or three things, right? One is we've seen that it's a retention situation can be avoided. And when I say retention, I mean to say, giving them, somebody's put in their papers and then you are trying to kind of hook them back. That's what I'm talking when I'm saying retention. So it can be avoided if we were to look at two or three aspects. The first aspect is, what is their pay positioning vis-a-vis the market? So that's from a pay perspective. Second is, the role that they have internally. Is that role something that matches or marries with the skills that they have? So assessing that, is it that they have more skills? They are far more. How do I say? They're bigger than the role themselves. If that's going to happen, then the professional will feel plateaued. They will not feel challenged. And more often than not, your top talent are people who want to be challenged, who want to grow, who want to always look up and have high standards of performance. So you need to be very clear that are their skills matching the role? And are you stretching them enough? That's important. The second, there's another situation where actually the role is very big and you have placed a person into that role who is an important person, has been a high performer, but may not be skilled enough, may not be still able to fill the big shoes of that role. So then here the strategy is different. So these are 2-3 situations. Of course, the fourth situation, which you always want to avoid, is somebody already has a market offer. Okay. But anyways, these 3-4 situations are there that we think can arise. And then there are targeted programs that you can have for each of these situations. As an example, someone who's, say, for example, low pay position. Okay. Or before I actually go there, let me give you the kind of total reward levers that we have thought of and we are working on. I wouldn't say that we've designed all of them now and we're 100% there, but we have this on our roadmap on the total reward levers. So various levers such as mentorship or coaching on the job, learning and development, promotions, role expansion, job rotation, job enrichment. So these are things that normally we have in our ecosystem. Or of course, then we have the absolute obvious pieces, which are salary correction or long-term retention levers, such as long-term incentives, retention bonuses, cash-linked or stock-linked incentives. So all of that is there. Then there is something like identifying somebody as a succession candidate and then looking at them differently. So when I say looking at them differently, meaning what is it that we need to do to enable the person to be able to take on their successors, the role, the next role in line. And lastly, something interesting which we are still building on, which is professional branding. How do I give professional branding to our top talent? So these are various total reward levers. Now, how do I implement it in various retention situations? As an example, if the person is a exceptional performer and is a high pot, a high potential, is a performer and expected to be able to take bigger roles, then because the person is an exceptional performer, and by the way, if this person actually falls in the category of low pay positioning versus the market, this person is highly at risk. So what do you do? One is, of course, market correction. Okay, that could always be the way out. But I believe that is not the only thing that works, or that is not what we should bank on, because anything that you do on your CTC or total compensation can always be matched by another organization. But let's say because this person is a performer and the intrinsic motivator out here for this person is ability to chart out my own targets. So while the manager can give target as X, you can always tell this person, hey, by the way, I allow you to set your own targets as long as they're above X. So X to karna hi hai. But if they're above X, then if you decide to take on that target of above X, up and how much ever you want to take, then I will put a multiplier so that you earn higher variable pay, which is a performance linked pay on that particular element. But that's only if the person is willing to take on a target on paper more than what the manager has already set out for themselves. Now, why is it that we would want to do this? We want to do this because typically a top talent who is an exceptional performer is already there. They're already performing at their best. They get challenged and they feel good about doing more in their role. And just that piece that, hey, we believe in you, you'll be able to do it, but take your own target. I'm not saying do this target, take your own target. And that opportunity is with you. They get highly excited about it. Some of them, not everybody. So one of the levers is this, which is on the compensation front, but in a very different way. Second, of course, is when we are saying, okay, expand your role, because this person is also high pot. So what more can I give to this person? Okay, in terms of role challenges. Third is mentorship and coaching, because if the person is a high pot, how do I translate this potential into performance, greater performance than what they're already doing? That is possible if they get the right mentor, right coach. We've done that for some of our top talent. Of course, career ladder, which is growth in their in their stature within the organization. That is also another lever. And for our leadership, etc., anyone, we do have long-term incentives that we give. And all of this together will form part of my total reward package for a low pay positioned person who is a high performer and a high pot. That's there. Nothing very out of the world, right? Everybody does that. But all I'm saying is, if you were to anticipate and say, this is my critical talent, this is the retention situation they might face or we might face given the category of rewards, then I will be proactive in putting all of these in place. I will not encounter that retention situation, hopefully. Okay. Similarly, if I were to, for example, look at another one of the retention situations or situation that can lead to risk of attrition is a role and skill mismatch. If for example, if the skill is way more than the role that the person is playing, naturally, the first thing to do is give them growth in their role there, give them a bigger role. Some nowadays merged roles are also possible, right? So you have one role. I play 3 roles today. I mean, a lot of people in our organization play 1 or 2 roles together because that helps us, make sure that we are utilizing our potential to the fullest, or at least we can test ourselves in that area. And the organization has placed their bet on us without making us feel that, hey, you need to, if you fail, then what? So fear of failure needs to be out of this entire equation when you're giving a person a bigger role, because you believe that this person has skills that are more than the role that they are playing today. And here what we do, for example, we would like to do, which we're trying to tie up, is giving them exclusive opportunities to expand, say, for example, as speakers in international forums or universities and exclusive conferences, maybe supporting them to publish white papers, or recognizing that a person could be interested in becoming, somebody who's improving their professional brands. That's what we can provide to such a person whose skill is more than the role. So suppose I don't have a bigger role for this person, but if I expand this area and provide them professional branding opportunities, I think that could be a great one of the levers we can always use.
Yes.
That's there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are many other things, Sanjeevani, but since we're short on time, I know I'm kind of, this is a long topic.
Yeah.
Rewards. Yeah, it's been 20 years that I've been doing this. So I'm learning every day. Yeah.
shared your thoughts lucidly, some really HR friendly, hands down approaches. So thank you for the insights. And I guess you have saved, our HRs from staying up late nights, worrying about how to retain their best employees. So these were some really great approaches. Thank you. Thanks a lot for the insights.
Sanjeevani, I don't think the staying up at night will ever go from any of the HRs when it comes to retaining critical talent. I can bet on that.
Yeah. So we have arrived at the end of today's episode. And as we wrap up, do you have any final thoughts or message for our listeners? I know they'd love to hear it from you. And for those who want to stay connected with you after this episode, can you let them know the best way to reach out to you?
Sure. Yeah, I think thank you for this entire podcast opportunity. It was a pleasure to be here, and I'm actually keen to re-emphasize the importance of two things and also add on one more piece. But the two things that I want to talk about is the P and the C of impactful. So I believe that for total rewards programs to be effective, while every total rewards professional must pay attention to the big ticket or oft talked about items that are part of this impactful structure, somewhere or the other people will relate to it, right? But many times the subtlest, most obvious aspects can fail the best designs. So, and in my view, these two, which is P, partnerships, and C, communication. These are two aspects whose importance should never be discounted by any total reward professional, I feel. This is something that I would if at all people want to take away something, I believe that partnership and communication, other than, of course, all that we talk about from a total reward perspective. And the add-on thing that I want to talk about is having a culture of iteration. So keeping total reward programs aligned to, you see, organizations move on and so do employees. There are always shifts. So it is important that we keep them aligned, that we all agree, we spoke about it. But we have to understand that it cannot be a set it and forget it type of exercise. Now, we need a culture of iteration there, as I said. So to constantly evolve the offerings that the total reward professionals have based on whatever the employee needs are, whatever the business objectives are, and whatever the market trends are. If we are constantly evolving the program and embracing this culture of iteration, then I can ensure that the program will remain fresh, it will remain engaging, it will remain effective. So those are the two things I would like to kind of, make sure people take away for sure as a message.
And how they can reach out to you post this episode?
Yeah, I can share my personal email ID.
Maybe they can reach out to you on LinkedIn as well.
That's also, absolutely. I can give you the LinkedIn profile.
Great. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Priyambi, for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. For our listeners who would like to connect with you, I'll be sharing your LinkedIn profile on our podcast page. Once again, thank you for your time and insights.
Thanks for the opportunity. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Vantage HR Influencers Podcast. Please do subscribe to Vantage HR Influencers Podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and our YouTube channel for new episodes.